Mr. Nelson, are you talking about having your closed session be an open one?
Yes.
On an open session per government code.
Okay, perfect. We could do that when it comes time.
Janika, Gary will be with us momentarily. He's getting his computer fired up.
Okay.
He just got back from another meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Janika,
Yes.
that email that you sent,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not able to open up the second attachment.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll wait a few moments for Gary.
Yeah, he's right behind me. He's firing his computer up.
Okay. All right. Everyone's gonna have to bear with me today. I'm only using my phone. My computer's acting up. So, Chief Brakebill, if you see someone raising their hand, can you just let me know?
Yes, ma'am. I sure will.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
All right, Gary's logging on right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. All right, Gary's joining us right now. He should be on your screen.
Okay, I'm in.
Okay. Everyone is here. Everyone's ready. Where am I? Okay. Sorry, I have to click through a couple screens. All right. Let the record show that on Thursday, September 10th of 2020. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That the Yermo Community Services District regular board meeting is beginning at 6:36 p.m. Nate, may you do roll call, please.
Yes. All right, everybody ready? All right, from left to right, Director Sint. All right, Director Sint is absent. Director Lohr,
Here.
okay. Director Yearsley,
Here.
all right. Director Shields,
Present.
okay. Director Quinones,
I am here.
all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Nate. Okay. Have all of the directors had time to review the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have any questions on any items?
Yes, I had a question. You mean on items that needed to be added, should have been?
I'm sorry, I think it's my connection. You're breaking up.
Is it, are you asking if we have any questions about the agenda and what's on it?
Yes.
Okay, I was under the opinion that we were supposed to bring back, we did a vote on doing the audit of the finances, and we told, I don't know, Steve or whoever to go and get us dollar amounts for that, and it should have probably been brought back on the agenda by now. Wondered if we can add that and see where we're at on that.
I agree.
If everyone is in agreement, we can add that and have an update from Steve, or he could do it in his report.
Well, I think that we need to get a
I'm happy to do
vote
it in the
on the
report.
total.
We could add it to the agenda. Would you like to make the motion?
Yeah, I want a motion that we add that to the agenda for them.
I second.
Okay. All in favor of adding a dollar amount to the review for the audit of our budget? Director Lohr, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Yearsley?
Aye.
Director Shields?
Aye.
Director Sint is absent, I believe.
Yes.
And then I vote aye as well. Okay, so we can add that one to the agenda. Do we have any other additions or questions on the agenda as it stands?
No, that's all I had.
All right, thank you. Director Shields, do you have anything?
Other than the closed session, but
Okay, we could discuss that later. Director Lohr, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, Director Shields, how do you vote?
aye.
Thank you. Director Lohr, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Yearsley, how do you vote?
Aye.
With Director Sint absent, and I will vote aye. Okay, the agenda is now approved with the addition of making a dollar amount for the budget on it. Public comments. This is a time and place for the general public to address the Community Services District on matters within our jurisdiction that are not currently on the agenda. State law prohibits the board from addressing any issue not previously included. The Community Service District may receive comments and set the matter for a subsequent meeting. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes. Yielding time to another speaker is not allowed. All speaker cards must be received prior to the agenda item addressed. Do we have any public comments at this time?
I do.
Is that Mr. Henderson?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you may speak, sir.
One item that is not on the agenda, not proposed for the agenda. Recent community input on this new AT&T 5G tower that's going in Yermo. Was the CSD made aware of the construction of that tower? And if so, when were they made aware? And was there any notice sent to anybody besides the CSD on that? Because I understand from the property owner, they sent out 20 notices to property owners in the area within 300 feet of the site. And there were only 2 property owners on the addresses within that area. For the secretary or general manager, were you made aware that AT&T was putting a tower in? And if so, when?
I can comment on that. As far as a notice, yes, we did receive a notice from AT&T. They did make us aware that they were putting up the 5G tower between 3rd and 4th Street or 3rd and 4th Avenue. As far as who they were notifying, it did not state exactly. As far as anyone in the public bringing it to our attention, that's a negative, other than one property owner in which they are putting the tower up behind his property or business. But other than that, that's the only person that's called us and complained about it. I did point him in the direction of the county, because that is something that's out of our control. That's something that we do not control.
Right.
We're not the ones putting up that tower, so that basically is out of our hands. I did direct him to the county of San Bernardino, and I made him aware that to ask him who he has to talk to or needs to talk to in regards to that 5G tower going up.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking to a property owner's name is Dana Dagg, and he's building their property at the old Y91 Cafe and the old hardware store. But understand that he received 10 of the 20 notices that and the motel across the street received the other 10 of the 20 notices. And evidently AT&T, as a contractor on that, did not have to inform anybody beyond 300 feet of their site, because there was no residential within 300 feet. And his question was, the motel does not qualify as residential. And I understand there are no other properties, residential properties. So I don't know if it was a concern for anybody else in the community, but I mentioned to him that I would bring it up to the board and ask the questions as to, who was informed and when. Do you remember when you received that notice?
It was earlier this year, Mr. Anderson.
This, well, that's.
It was before the summer started, way before the summer started.
Okay.
So it was possibly, let's see, May, April, May, somewhere around there.
Okay. Just for the record, from our past history of being on the board, if we'd ever received a notice like that from a contractor, we would have put out a public notice.
It wasn't from a contractor. It was from the county of San Bernardino themselves.
Okay. So we would have notified the public in some way, shape, or form, put out a notices in the kind. So just heads up. Anyway, it looks like there's been no opposition to it, no registered opposition to it, so it'll probably go in. But that's a 120-foot tower that's going in. And I think you probably saw the Facebook post that water tower on the Yermo site, Yermo Marine Base site, is about a 100-foot tower. So be prepared to see a 100-foot tower on the east end of Yermo. And it will be a 5G tower, and it will be leased out to, according to his contact, it will be leased out to other phone companies. So the T-Mobiles, the Verizons, the Sprints, or whoever else out there will be able to use that. And I understand the folks at Calico Lakes, they're welcoming it because they need the 5G. But just as a note, we would have put out a notice when we received information. So just a heads up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Henderson. Do we have any other public comment at this time?
President Quinones,
Yes,
please, King.
you may speak, please, Ms. King.
Okay. About 2 Saturdays ago, Liberty Sculpture Park here in Yermo held another celebration for their addition of the Liberté Hong Kong sculpture to the collection of the protest art and memorials there at the International Place of Remembrance and Human Rights Empowerment in Yermo, California. So it was a largely attended event. Today, I think that I'm not sure if anyone's had a chance to look at it, but the sculpture is celebrating the tens of thousands of people who were mostly young students that began the Hong Kong democracy protest in 2014. And that was something that began like in September of 2014, and many groups with differing agendas, but mainly they were protesting against the decision of mainland China. They had a standing committee of the National People's Congress to require a selective pre-screening of candidates for the 2017 election of the Hong Kong's chief executive office, which is like their prime minister or president of Hong Kong. And that movement occupied areas for several cities in Hong Kong to demand free and fair elections, and it lasted 79 days. The demonstrators were documented as having been attacked by anti-democracy groups. That's why the one side of the sculpture has like the fighting and the police coming in and such. It was called the Umbrella Revolution or the Umbrella Movement because the students were there for peaceful protests. They were pretty adamant about it, but it was raining there and they had umbrellas. And so when they were attacked by the police with tear gas, they just put their umbrellas up and tried to protect themselves. So that's the other side of the sculpture where there's like all these umbrellas like a wall. And then the other aspect of it is that we were recognizing the brave idealists of Hong Kong by having what they call a linen wall at the base of the sculpture would be the brightly colored blocks. And it's along the fence line too for people to add notes. They can send messages of freedom, democracy, and support that can be offered from the entire world here in Yermo for those who are fighting for democracy in Hong Kong and in China. We also incorporated a time capsule into the park. And the intent of it, it's filled with items from people who were either a part of the Umbrella Revolution or helping and supporting the Umbrella Revolution. And it's intended to be opened one day when the world can celebrate the freeing of Hong Kong. And that's in the park as well. So it's kind of interesting. So, you know, future events, I guess, are hopefully one day we'll live to see that. So the other thing was, I got to meet through internet. I was invited to a Skype meeting the next day or Zoom meeting the next day with Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey. He's a Republican congressman running for re-election, and he has been a large part of the United States concerns about bringing light to human rights violations. He's been the only House of Representative person to be sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party. And he also was one of the two lawmakers that nominated the Umbrella Movement for a Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. So it was a really great experience. And Liberty Sculpture Park, man, it's amazing. He put a 15-minute video together that we aired at the event. I think it was like from 6 to 11. And so his ran after dark, of course, had a big screen up, and it was just wonderful to have a national level politician recognize Yermo and our Liberty Sculpture Park. So it's something for everyone here to be proud of. And the only other thing is that, you know, I don't think we have another event scheduled at this point for this year. But of course, we're always working towards the next event and recognizing that there are things happening in our world. I think it's really good for us to support those that adopt and adhere to a principle of nonviolent civil disobedience with a willingness to assume consequential legal responsibility for their protests as they fight for their rights. And this monument recognizes that's the situation that occurred back in 2014 in Hong Kong. So, but I think it's a good message for today for all of us. So we have a lot to be proud of having stuff like this in our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. King. Are there any additional public comments at this time? I do not see anyone. Okay. Next is the committee reports. Mr. Henderson, would you like to start us off with the Welcome Center?
Sure, can do. If you've driven by the Welcome Center lately, you see we got construction going on over there. Finally getting to the final phase of improvements at that location. The final phase of the construction is the creation of a patio on the east side of the building that runs the full length, 60 feet length of the building, and it's 18 feet wide. And wrapped around the front of the building, we added 2 feet to the concrete to the porch out there. And in the final phase of that, we're covering that entire thing, that entire patio, with a matching roof design cover to keep the heat of the summer and the rains off the patio for public use. So just as a note on that, the entire cost of the patio slab itself, which was 21 yards of concrete, and the entire cover, which is being built to county code on that, the entire cost of those two projects is being covered entirely by the Welcome Center and no cost to the CSD whatsoever. To give you an idea, those two projects alone are equal to about 4/5 of the entire cost of the project that was put in so far. So I'll bring you the numbers. First time we have a face-to-face meeting, I'll bring the numbers to the board and show them what has been accomplished over there. The construction should be complete in about 2 weeks. We get the final phase of the covers in and the final lighting, and we're putting in another door on the east side of the building, so for access to the patio. That should be a couple of weeks before we get that finished. But as soon as this COVID closure is clear, we will have an opening over there and get as many folks as we can over into there. But if you've driven by lately, and I invite you to drive by, slow down, take a look, and get your ideas on the improvements to that structure and that location. I think it's looking pretty good. I've got a lot of compliments on it so far, and it's looking pretty good. On a second note, for the general manager, you had sent out the email for this agenda and this meeting here, and one of the items I had replied to you with an additional email. One of the items on that was, I think it was item 3 on your attachment about the costs included and billed to the CSD. Are you going to bring that up or discuss that as part of your item 2 on your agenda this evening?
Item 2, let's see.
What's your budget item?
The Welcome Center was not on the agenda for this evening, but I'm happy to address it for you.
Okay, if we could address that during that item 2 on the agenda, I don't have to bring it up as a special meeting. Did you receive the email?
Very well.
Did you receive the email?
No, you sent it. No, I never received an email from you. I believe you sent it to Savannah, and my name is Steve.
I sent it to the general manager, and I sent
that comes from me.
also sent it to board members, including Clarissa and Mike and Debbie
I
and
received it. Mhm.
and your secretary. Nate, did you receive the email?
Yes, I did, Mr. Anderson. And I also forwarded it to the general manager.
Thank you very much. Okay. If we can,
For real quick, for the future, I will forward you the general manager's email, so that way he can also get it.
okay, I understand the
Alright.
the reason why it probably went to Savannah is because I came from the Yermo Welcome Center's email page, and it probably had her old email on there. So if you can just make sure he has a copy of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Henderson. Any, let's see. Do we, oops. Do we have someone from the CHP here to make a report?
Yes, this is Captain Wagner with CHP. We
Okay.
are moving forward. The CHP Academy is set to open on the 14th of this month. It's a welcome relief because we haven't had the academy running in over 6 months. There have been a lot of retirements this year, and staffing throughout the state has had the numbers go down. So we look forward to having the academy open and new officers reporting to the Barstow area. I've also had a lot of meetings with Express West. They have a high-speed rail that they're building from Apple Valley to Las Vegas. It appears that their project should be fully funded by the end of this month, and they are going to kick off construction by the end of the year. There's a 3-year build cycle on that project, and you will have a high-speed train running from Apple Valley to Las Vegas at an estimated speed of 180 miles an hour at times. But does anyone have any questions for me regarding that project or anything else?
What is the location on that?
The Apple Valley location will be on the southeast corner of Dale Evans
Okay.
Parkway at Interstate 15. It'll be a nonstop route. There is no stop in Barstow, no stop anywhere along the route until it gets into the south portion of Las Vegas. We'll have the other train station.
All right, thank you.
Captain Wagner, I think Mike Henderson has a question. He has his hand up.
Yes, sir. The route, is that going to be going down the center of the freeway, or how are they doing their construction? Have they mentioned?
They have 2 proposed routes when it kicks off at the Apple Valley location. One plan has it immediately cross into the center divider and travel north up towards Vegas. The second plan actually has it running along the side of the freeway up until maybe around Outlet Center Drive or L Street, somewhere in there. And at that point, it will jump into the center median. It will be at ground level, except right in the town, in the city of Barstow, they have to elevate it. So it will be elevated approximately 60 feet above the ground in order to get over Barstow Road, get over Muriel, get over the railroad crossing, and then it'll come back down at ground level somewhere around the Mojave River. And it will be continuous through the center divider all the way until Nevada state line. And at that point, it'll actually jump outside of the borders of the freeway and parallel in the open land at that point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wagner. Do we have someone from the sheriff's department here to make a report? Anyone? No? Okay. We can move on. I don't know if I'm my internet has everybody froze.
We
No?
can still hear you.
Okay. I'm like, I could see people moving. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't skip over anyone. Okay. All right, then, Mr. Nelson, would you like to make your report for the office?
Sure thing.
Mhm.
All righty, everybody. We're doing pretty good in the office. We've been getting a lot accomplished, streamlining things and getting things under control. To begin with, our labor posters are now current for both the CSD and the fire department, and there are a slew of them this time around. We have them all posted. They include COVID-19, social distancing, and all kinds of new information, but they're up and running, so we're now current, legal, and will be set for another year. This also being an election year, we will have our polling place in place. We are in communication with the Register of Voters, waiting for a call back on exact costs and exact implementation, but we do know it will be a 4-day event, and that'll be taking place from October 31st through November 3rd. As a reminder, commodities will be available on September 18th. That is 1 week from tomorrow. One thing we are doing in the office is consolidating our purchases. We're trying to limit travel. We're trying to limit our costs on fuel, man hours. We're pretty much getting everything now online, and we're getting it ordered. We're getting next day delivery, and it's free delivery. So we're getting a higher quality of a product. We're getting more in what we pay for, and we're going to get more out of it. So it's all a positive thing. And that's going to help us a lot with maintenance, not having to travel to Barstow, Victorville, and beyond to get supplies. We're also consolidating our fuel purchases. We will no longer be using Fuel Man. We've notified them that we will not use them. We paid the final bill. We notified them that we will not be using them, but we are not on the administrator on that account, so we cannot close that account. Nate has contacted Director Sint to contact Fuel Man to close it. We've notified Fuel Man to contact Director Sint to close that account because we won't be paying any more bills on it since we paid in full. So now we're basically using nothing but the Silver Valley Unified School District and the Vegas Truck Stop locally and other locations when they're out and about. And finally, our audit is underway. Our basic annual audit is underway, and we're going a little bit beyond that. We'll talk about that when we get to the audit section in the agenda. But the audit is underway, and we will start getting some answers to lingering questions. So things are moving forward. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Yes, Steve, it's Jim Brickbill. I have a question.
Yeah.
Our firefighters will be going out on strike teams as far as up north, and they're going to need a fuel card. Okay, that's something you might want to consider.
Oh, good idea. We will take care of that for you guys.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Nelson, does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, can I have a point of order, please?
Yes.
I think you skipped over the consent calendar. It was
Did
at the
I?
bottom of the second page.
Oh, I did.
Yes, we did.
Yes, I did.
Yes, ma'am. You need to vote on that or he can't pay the bills legally.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. I'm jumping between different things. So since Mr. Nelson's report is over, let's go to the consent calendar. The following consent items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. They'll be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any item may be removed by a board member or member of the audience for discussion. Was there attachment of bills given to us this month? I don't recall seeing one.
I don't believe so.
No?
I
Okay.
didn't have one.
No.
And never mind then. There's nothing to
Yeah.
vote on.
Okay. Can you, Mr. Nelson, for next month, can you have a list of all bills that need to be paid? So, and
Sure.
an approval of
You
the
mean-
minutes from the previous meetings as well on here. And that'll go under the consent calendar. That was overlooked on my part as well.
Okay, not a problem.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Nelson did his report. I believe, Nate, do you have anything to add? Or
No, I
did
do
Mr.
not.
Nelson cover it? Okay, perfect. And then, for Joe, did you guys ever start getting quotes for his vehicle, for the truck, for our vehicle truck? Or is it in working order now?
Is that to me?
Yes, Mr. Nelson or Nate, whoever can answer it.
Yeah. We have not moved on the maintenance truck at this point. We are budgeting $0 for it.
Mhm.
General estimate is worth about $50, and there's no point to repair, and we're debating whether we should even replace if we're getting things online and we don't need to have a maintenance vehicle because all things are done, on property.
Mhm.
That is something we'll have to discuss at a future time, but at this point, we have not looked into either repairing or replacing it as to the fact that it's just not worthy.
Okay. Chief Brakebill, would you like to make your report?
You're
Chief,
muted.
you need to unmute.
All right. For the past month, which is from August 13th to September 9th, we've had a total of 32 medical calls. The previous month, we didn't have a board meeting. We had 34 medical calls. 58% of those were COVID-related calls from people going up and down the freeway or pulling off at a service station and exhibiting the signs and symptoms of COVID. Four of the medical calls for this past month had to do with diabetic emergencies and general weaknesses. We had 19 medical assists, which were lifting bariatric patients off the floor, or getting people out of hot lock car, or getting pets out of locked cars. We responded to one vehicle accident with an injury, one EMS call, not including an auto accident, but an injury. And we had one rescue call. For good intent calls, we got canceled one time en route. We had a total of 4, and most of those were false alarms coming from the restaurants there in town. One of them was a malicious fire alarm where somebody had pulled the fire alarm and activated it. Fire calls were a total of 3 for this past month. One was a structure fire in an abandoned building. The other one was a vegetation fire, or a grass fire. And the other one was a vehicle fire. Total calls for the month has been 33. Total calls for the year, we're sitting at 336 calls. All of the events that we participate in have been canceled due to the COVID-19. I do want to make the district aware that we are out of PPE for medical for all of the COVID calls that we run. And last time I paid for them out of my pocket, it took several weeks to a month to get my money back. So there will be an order coming so we can comply with ISMA's protocols and making sure that our people are protected when they go responding. We did receive a donation from 511 Tactical Gear today. you'll see that when you get on the budget, that there is no money to purchase PPE to protect our firefighters when they're out on calls. So they donated $2,000 worth of inventory to us. Supplies for our fire station are becoming a huge issue. We order the supplies and then the checks don't get signed. And we have hand soap that doesn't, it appears to be diluted when I looked at it. We're requesting to get the station allowance every month so we can purchase the supplies needed, because we are staffing the station since we are a core station under the declaration of local emergency that I filed with the county. And we are staffing 3 to 4 to 6 people a day. So, you know, we go through toilet paper, we go through PPE, we go through trash bags and bath soap and laundry soap. We've been doing some recruiting and we've been very successful. We're almost at 100% capacity. I'm glad to inform the district that all of our firefighters are firefighter ones, in state certified engineers and licensed EMTs, and a wildland hotshot. New command staff. We talked about the Type 3 engine. Our records show that the registration paperwork was given to Director Sent, who was going to go down and get the vehicle registered as part of our contract with the state for giving us the Type 3 engine at no cost. COVID came about and now the paperwork has not been located. So I'm going to request the district manager to see if he can get a hold of Director Sent and see if we can get the registration paperwork. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back to the state fire marshal's office and start the process all over again, and I'll just do it myself. Okay, our e-tool money, we did get all of our extrication equipment, the new e-tools. We teamed up with Morongo Valley Fire. That all came in. It's now at Yermo on the equipment, ready to be used when needed. And our reimbursement check has been authorized and should be getting mailed here shortly. I see it was on the agenda, but I talked to our board president about the badges. That badge money comes out of earmarked money from CAL FIRE. Our firefighters are now required to be in uniform when they go to Fire Academy training or to training classes. They can't wear old beat up t-shirts and Levi's. Our firefighters, you know, they've worked hard. They drive over 130 miles to come and put in 96 to 120 hours a month. And I think it's not too much to ask that money that they worked, that they earned through putting their lives on the line, going out on wildland fires, such as the one that you see in my background, okay, that we can't provide them a badge, especially when it doesn't come out of the CSD budget money. So I'm going to push very hard for that. There's also a couple of other items that our checks need to be signed, and as soon as we get that audit done, that Steve, and then it will know exactly what happened to our CAL FIRE money and why it disappeared. As far as our training, we've had a very busy month in training. We had over 448 hours of Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 training, everything from PPE to self-contained breathing apparatus, driving, defensive driving, EMS, fire inspections, physical fitness training, scenarios, wildland fire training and communication, and emergency reporting and report writing. Along with, we did have an all-day class on using the e-tools, and that was done at the Barstow Junkyard, and I sent them a letter thanking them. And Madam President, that's all of my report.
All right, thank you, Chief Brickville. Do any of the directors have questions for the chief? No? Okay. We can go on to our first item, which is review and discuss buying Microsoft Office Suite with Windows 10 for the CSD and fire department.
Steve, did you want me to speak on that, or are you going to speak on it?
Oh, you can go ahead and start, and I'll help you out.
Okay,
If you want.
I'm going to speak for
Take
the
it,
fire
I'll-
department. I'm going to speak for the fire department. Our computer system is down because the software that was installed on it has been pirated or counterfeited. As far as Microsoft is concerned, we no longer have access to write our fire reports or our EMS reports. There is, I think they went out in your packet, the signs that pop up on our windows, on our computer, it says windows are not genuine. You may be a victim of software counterfeiting. So the spirit of our firefighters, they bring their own laptops and they hook in to the internet, which they shouldn't have to do because they are volunteers, but they do. And I'd ask the CSD that you consider getting Microsoft 365 and get it up and running so we can conduct business as a fire department and remain compliant with OSHA and EMS and state fire marshal guidelines for a fire department. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, we have the same problem in the CSD office. It's Windows is not genuine. It is, you're running a counterfeit system for software. If I go to make an Excel spreadsheet like the budget and create a budget, it tells me my system has expired. Click here to pay and renew, or you close it and open up anyway. That's where we're at. We're a government office. It doesn't seem right. And I believe Chief already got the figures. It's like $100, $99 for a year for Microsoft Office Suite 365. It's something that needs to be done. We need to be legal. We need to be current. We need to be on top of this. There's no reason that we should be running counterfeit software and counterfeit programs.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'll go to each director and see if they have any comments at this time. Director Yearsley, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. I have a lot of comments, but so I know that over the years we bought the programs for that. I'm not really sure what happened to those and why we ended up with pirated copies. I don't know if anybody can hear, but can everybody mute their systems because we're getting all kinds of
Chief
talk
needs
in
to.
the background. But anyway, we need these in the office and we need those at the station. There's not any way that they can do their job without those. And I know it's a huge problem to have ones that are pirated because you can't get in and then it locks up on you and all kinds of stuff. So I think that we need to get those as soon as possible so we can get our job done in both places. That's all I have. Well, I don't know if we lost Janika, but does another director want to talk on it?
Nika's muted.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I thought I unmuted myself. Okay. Director Shields, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm in agreement with Gary. We need to get this situation taken care of. We have the prices. We just need to go and get it done.
Thank you,
That's the
Director
only
Shields.
comment I have.
Director Laura, do you have anything?
Yeah, so I'm not a very techie person, so this might sound stupid, but if we buy one thing, then it can be used for both places. Is that correct?
You have to get one for each one of the places.
Okay, so it would be $99 each.
Yeah, for each side, the fire department and the CSD side.
Okay, so it's 99, so it'd be about $200, give or take a little bit with taxes and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Steve, is that correct?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Okay,
If we had the fire department and the CSD connected, then we would only have to pay the one price, correct? But being they're separated, far from each other, we can't do it. Is that my understanding?
Yes, we have to have one in each location.
Okay, all right, thank you.
yeah, I agree. I think we should go ahead and get it done. But I think Mr. Henderson has his hand up too when we're finished.
Okay. My only comment on this is the money that we would be spending this from, is it coming from the general account? Do we have enough to pay for this $200? And then the other comment is that I was under the impression that if we have room in the budget for this and that it's under the limit, then it could be purchased without coming to the board.
And we do have the money in the budget for this.
Okay. All right. That
Yes, I
those
would
are
think
my
that needs to come out of the budget money because of the expenditure would be a budget item.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Those are my only comments. We have a public comment from Mr. Henderson.
Yeah, we do the same software here at the house, and it's $100 a year, $99.99 or something like that per year, but it's good for 5 computers. So you may want to check with your Microsoft agreement and find out if you might be able to just use it one-time purchase for 5 separate computers. I'm not sure how it's going to work on different IP addresses because you have a different IP address for the firehouse and one for the CSD. But I know personally, I can lock in 5 different laptops on one $99 purchase. So heads up.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Henderson.
Hey, thanks for
Ms. King, you have a comment?
Yes, so when I looked up this message online, it suggested that you uninstall any pre-installed Office trial on your computers and that you install the Office version you purchased. So have you looked for your documentation of what was put on there? And then try to uninstall and then reinstall using your key at that point to clear this message, because apparently this is a common problem for legally purchased product.
Elise may be correct on that because if you have your CD disc, what she's saying is you just have to reload it because it's lost the program that you originally put in. So you guys should look around to see if you have the CD.
It would be a key that they were looking for because they probably downloaded it directly off the internet, but there would be some kind of a key, like a long number or code system or something that would be the key that you would use to verify. And apparently even like this message that you've received, the person is saying that they keep getting the same message even though they keep putting their product key in and they had purchased this legally. And the response back and they locked it, so I think this must be one that works, was that you uninstall any pre-installed Office trials and then you reinstall the Office version that you have and use your key at that point to kind of get rid of the conflict that somehow or another has come up. And then the other aspect is that, you know, should it come to that we are having a breakdown in our systems and we need these things done, I certainly support having this fixed. I think that when we talked about the budgeting, you were talking about making a physical purchase. Is this a physical purchase or is this that monthly subscription? Because I do know that a lot of these products are moving away from allowing you to buy a full-on package or a product to try and forcing the issue to go to subscription. So look into that, because I thought you already had moved to subscription for at least part of what you're talking about. I'm confused about the Windows and the Office. They're kind of separate programs, but you may have to do both for them. Uninstall, reinstall, see if your key works. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Do we have any further public comment? I'm going through for everyone. Okay, if not, do we have a motion from the directors?
I have a question.
Yes, Director Lahr?
Um, Steve, have you guys looked and seen if there's a purchase key or something somewhere where we could do what Lise just said?
I can answer that for you, Clarissa.
Okay.
Um, in the general manager's desk, there was a Microsoft program or disk, whatever you want to call it. The key code that was on there, I entered, and it was apparently not the right one. So I know from personal experience on purchasing Microsoft for my laptop, for a year subscription, and you can also do a monthly subscription. It's actually pretty cheap. I would suggest going with the year subscription, and then when the year is up, we can repurchase the software again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any further questions from directors? Okay, I don't see any at this time.
Director Keonos,
Yes,
I just wanted to let you know that the subscription comes with automatic updates too. So if you make a one-time purchase, you don't get the automatic updates to keep your system up and running.
okay. Thank you, Chief. Any more comments? No? Okay. Do any of the directors have a motion?
I would motion that we get a copy or a subscription to that Microsoft for both CSD and fire department, but I think we should investigate to find out the best possible price, and for longevity, the best price over time, whether it be by a copy per year or to buy the subscription and pay a monthly fee, whatever the cheapest way is.
Okay. Do we have a second for Director Yearsley's motion?
Can I make a point of order on that motion, please?
Yes.
Could you put a dollar value to that so that should you need, so that way they are empowered to do what we need to do?
Yeah, I will put down the dollar amount of $99. That's what we've been told it costs. And then that was about a little over $8 a month for
Per subscription, right? So
So at least
Yes.
$200.
yeah, yes. So yeah. So if you could add the dollar, top dollar value to your order, please, or to your motion, please. Thank you.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's $99 per subscription. So it'd be the $298 for both.
198.
You're correct, $198.
I'll second the motion.
Great, thank you. Director Shields, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Yearsley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Lahr, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Sin is absent, and I vote aye as well. Okay, this motion passes. The next one is review and discuss the 2020-2021 budget by Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, I just wanted to get this on the agenda because we're very close to presenting a budget to the board. We've had our budget committee going on for a couple of months, and we were interrupted for about a 2-3 week period because of fires. But we are on the verge of producing a final product for you. And it's going to be a balanced budget. And the budget committee, please chime in with anything you want to add. We sent out emails with the final budget today. I didn't get a response, so I figure everybody's not quite ready to release the final budget to the board, but we are so close.
Well, Steve, I, for some reason, again, didn't get mine till tonight when Jim came because I didn't get an email, so I don't know what happened again, but I didn't know what had happened, but I'll agree with Steve. I'll chime in here because I kind of headed it up. I mean, I was the slow one in the process because I was on fires and had a lot of things going on. But everybody, I want you to know that everybody that was on the committee worked very diligently to get this thing done. We did a step at a time. We took 3 years apart. We went through every single item. We got down to the only items that we thought were necessary to carry on as a continuing budget item. Everybody had input, everybody put in time to make sure, and I really feel that this budget will be very, very close. That Steve, what I was hoping to be a final today, but Lisa had a couple of questions and there's a few little things to change. But as he said, it's a balanced budget and we really feel that we've addressed every item that we should be running into this year. There's always things that come up, but using the consistency of a 3-year program, this is as close as we could get. And I want to thank the whole committee that was on here that helped.
Yeah, it really was a great group. And we did get a lot done and we did crunch some numbers. So I think we've gotten to a point we've not been at before. And I think this is awesome.
I just have one question. Does that mean we'll be doing another meeting on Wednesday? Commissioner Chief?
Sounds light.
Lisa, I went off your message and you had mentioned that you thought one more time to just go over the few little items that you had. I would say, yes, we probably should do that on Wednesday. And then if Janika chooses to do a special meeting just to get this going so we can do the final next month, she can do that as a preliminary budget where the board agrees on it. So I would like to see, after your comments, one more Wednesday meeting at 6:30. And then I think we could come to the board in a special meeting with a final.
Okay. Yeah. So 6:30 on Wednesday?
Yes, I would think that's fine.
Put it
Is
in my
that okay with you, Janika?
Yes, that sounds great. I'm glad to hear we've made so much progress on it and we're so close to having this done. Yeah.
I'd like to have Debbie and Jim also get in on this, and Lisa, if you had a little bit more, because these guys really did work hard and we put Steve to work during the week getting us numbers every week.
Yeah, the only thing I can see that's different between the document I sent out last night after the meeting and the document that Steve Nelson sent to us this morning is that he upped more, probably almost just under $600, like 500 and I want to say 78 maybe dollars more to the one account for fire department fuel, which, or I might be, I'm sorry, it's very small, but I'm trying to see where the difference is because mine had it as a $633 left over and his has it as $11.11 left over. So we're off only by like So I'm trying to see where the difference in our numbers is. That's the only question. And then deciding how we separate out some of the things we discussed. I was hoping that we would comment it throughout the day, so we would just be able to send it to the board and they could vote to make it go to the next step, but oh well. Next Wednesday, 6:30 committee meeting.
Yeah, I didn't get the copy, so I didn't know that it got completed until Jim brought me a copy at about 6 o'clock. So, you know, we did have Steve make a lot of changes. You came up with a lot of changes at the end, and it might do us good to just do a real quick little go through it to finalize it so we can see. And then,
I'll be ready.
If Janika agrees to a special meeting, she could call that for us to do the preliminary vote to put it in. And then we could be ready next month for the.
Yeah, just let me know when you guys are ready and have it all together, and I'll schedule a special meeting.
Jim, did you have anything you want to put in?
Nope. I'm going to go back over it with a fine-tooth comb and come back with my final thoughts.
Okay, unless Debbie has something to say, I think that's what I would suggest that we do at this time. It was a lot of work, and I think everybody will be happy to see how it looks. It looks like a real budget now. I think we've got a on it.
Director Shields, did you have anything?
A final review, I think, would be possible, and that it should be done at this point before we could present it, which we're pretty close and things are going good. And I appreciate everybody's help. Thank you.
Okay, Director Lord, do you have any questions for anyone on the committee? Oh, I don't see her.
I'm sorry, I do have
Yes,
a question.
sorry. Yes.
Mr. Henderson asked if we were to speak on the budget for the Welcome Center during this item so we don't have to do a special meeting. Are we going to do that, or are we going to put that in special meeting as well?
I would like to address one item, if I could, and that was in the email that came out yesterday or day before yesterday, general manager, addressing the cost of the Welcome Center. And I sent the information back, and Nate's got it, the other directors got it. There was a disparaging remark made by the general manager regarding the cost of the items done at the Welcome Center, and that the CSD had been misled on the cost. And one of the items I sent back to the directors and the general manager was an entire breakdown of the monies that the CSD has paid and that the costs that were involved. And everything that was paid back was agreed to by the board. And there has been no further payments to Welcome Center other than the notices that were sent. So I was rather disheartened to see that the general manager is using his position to slander, if I could use the word, the Welcome Center project without actually having the figures in front of him. And I'd be glad to address that with him directly, but he doesn't call, and he doesn't return calls. So the information I have given to you, there's been no any kind of misuse of funds or billing for that Welcome Center, and most of the costs have been on the itself. So I would appreciate if that item in that note that everybody received was withdrawn without further justification. And I'd appreciate if the general manager would address it.
I'd be happy to address it. Mr. Henderson, I am in agreement with you. I'm not saying that you did not spend the money you say you spent. I'm not saying that you didn't make an agreement that you held up to. What I'm saying is I have the same paperwork you have, and we are in total agreement. What is different is you do not have the paperwork I have. So with all the monies that you have spent and the reimbursements that took place, in addition, I have with me a copy of Welcome Center construction expenses for the Kramer Construction Company, totaling $40,811 that is not addressed in any of the reimbursements or of the initial monies that you're talking about. So while all those monies were fine, what I have in my accounting system are a total of 9 checks totaling $40,811 that you are not accounting for. And when you add that in, the CSD was misled, and we paid 3 times as much for the project. And that's just the facts and the numbers and the documents that I have. If you want to come to my office and see them, I'd be happy to. If I go to your home to see your papers, I will see the same ones that I have, and you will not see the ones that I have. So you're welcome to come anytime, and I'll show you the additional $41,000 that we spent.
Yeah, and were those that? were
Can I
those
break this
over
for a
and
minute?
above-
Someone has got 2 devices going and they're echoing between them. So whoever is on this call, if you have 2 devices on, you've got one of them. Sorry, Mike.
Okay, so Mr. Nelson, do you have bills from Kramer Construction that I do not have on my records?
I don't know what you have on your records. What I have are checks. I have CSD checks signed by 2 signatures totaling $40,811, sir.
Were any of those addressed on that list that I sent?
No, they're not.
Okay.
What you have addressed on your list is Cooley Construction. You've got the heater replacement. You've got security doors, but you do not have the Kramer Construction on your list.
Okay.
So we have all the reimbursements.
Are you going to be in the
And the
office?
funny thing, I'm sorry,
will you
go
be in
ahead.
the office tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
Will you be in the office on Friday?
No, Monday through Thursday, 10 to 4, wide open anytime.
I will swing by there on Monday and see you then. I'm
Perfect.
confused about you guys paying Kramer Construction for something I knew nothing about. And does it pertain to the Welcome Center or was it other projects? Because
Every check says Welcome Center Construction.
okay,
That's the note on every check.
okay, yeah. Let me swing by there on Monday. We can probably straighten that out.
Happy to do it.
Good deal. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, did we have any other questions or comments on this item?
I would just like to make sure that we put on the agenda for next month the answer to all these questions, because I was already in the opinion that Mike and Steve were going to get together about 3 months ago and go over the bills together. But I would just, can we do a report on that meeting so we know where we're at on all that in the next agenda, please?
I would be happy to bring that information over and get the report to the board, sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. I do have a question about that meeting. Are we only doing scheduled appointments for the CSD, or is it completely closed?
Are you referring to the?
Oh, we are doing scheduled appointments.
I don't believe it's a meeting. I just want to get together with Steve and match numbers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. For anyone going into the office, are we allowing the public into the office right now if they schedule an appointment, or is it completely closed?
How do you want to do it, Steve?
I would think there's going to be some situations where we've got to do a face-to-face on things, especially when we have like bank account numbers and checks and stuff that have to be seen. I mean, it is up to Steve since he's the general manager, but as I do here, you have to schedule appointments on some things.
No, I completely
We are
understand.
scheduling some.
Want to be
And when the checks need to be signed, someone has to go in there to sign them personally.
Can I chime in for a minute?
yes.
All right. So, I mean, in the past few months, we've had people show up, ask for burn permits, ask for rentals for the facility. We've had to turn them away. So, I mean, just with that alone, it does, it is saying that people do show up and we do deal with the public. But at the same time, for anything else that needs to be addressed, as far as like what Gary said, financials, and like what Debbie said, checks and stuff like that, we are totally open to have you guys come in by either appointment or, either myself or Steve emailing you to have you guys come in to do any type of signing or having conversations about certain things or situations and stuff like that. So we are open to anyone who wants to come in, as long as, we are aware of it ahead of time. That way we can, take the proper measures and keep our social distancing. That's all I got.
And at this point, I get emails from the office requesting my presence, if I could come in and sign checks. So in my opinion, that
Well,
is.
I wasn't.
That is
My question was just for the general public coming in, with our offices technically still being closed. I was just wondering how the meeting was going to be set up in that regards.
Understand.
Because I don't
it even-
recall us voting to have it open at any time.
I don't
so.
believe we
I don't
didn't
want to
vote
point.
to have it open, but in this particular instance, I don't believe Mr. Henderson would be considered a member of the general public when he's actually working with the board on something. So I think that's totally different. As
Well,
far as
I just want to make sure that when we have this meeting that it's scheduled, all precautions are being put into place. Everybody's wearing their masks, different other
right,
types
and
of precautions are being taken care of.
I'm sure they'll be doing all that, but I do think that as far as the general public, there shouldn't even need to be any turning away of general public. The door's shut, it's closed. We shouldn't even be having contact with the general public.
Okay, that was my understanding
No,
as well.
We have people driving in asking when's the food distribution. We have people asking how often it happens. We have people asking if they can get a burn permit. We have people that just stick a hand in the door and hand us an envelope for paying for a flag. People are very respectful of the situation of the time right now, and we keep the closed sign up, but the door is unlocked but closed, but people will knock and pop in, and little incidences like that, but just is very simple and non-threatening.
What time, hey, Steve, what time do you want to see, what time do you have a meeting on Monday?
Anytime, 10:30, 11 o'clock would be great.
10:30 sounds good. See you then. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that meeting is set. Do we have any additional questions or comments by directors? No? Okay, perfect. I guess then as we are for this item, the budget committee will get with me as soon as they have everything the way they like it, and then we will set a special meeting to take it to the next step.
Okay, Janika, since I'm
Yes.
in charge of the committee, I will get back with you, and Steve and I will confer when we got everything ready for you to have a meeting.
Okay, sounds good to me. Thank you. We can move on to item number 3, review and discuss the badge invoice. Chief Brakebill, I know you spoke on it earlier, but you would like to elaborate further?
1 second.
Jim?
Yeah,
Are we
Nate,
doing a information item for number 2? Were we going to motion to bring it back for a special meeting? There wasn't.
I don't think we need to motion for that. It was just kind of an update, an informational item. And then when they have everything put in place, then Director Yearsley would contact me and then we would just set it.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Chief Brakebill, you could speak on item number 3 if you're ready.
Yes. Okay, again, fire department badges come out of the CAL FIRE money. And if you go over and you look on our proposed budget, there is no money. This money comes from the firefighters that went out there and worked and fought wildland fires, made money for the district, and then all of a sudden that money disappeared, and now there's no money for the badges. We do have money for the badges. The badges are required on uniforms when these guys go to a state training facility to receive auto extrication, EMS advanced training, and all other kind of stuff. And the badges have been made, the check's been cut, and once again, I'm running into roadblocks spending money that we earned. And I'm requesting that the check be signed and that the badges go and get picked up. Now, the badges are numbered and they're inventoried in the emergency reporting system. So when people come and people go, those badges are accounted for. And, you know, we have over 38 people that work for us now. They're all active. They all work 96 hours. And, you know, they have to bring their own computers, their own safety gear, and everything to come up and work at Yermo. And I think providing them with the badge once they get off fire department probation is a small price to pay for the dedication of these young men and women who serve the Yermo Community Services District and the surrounding areas and help keep Interstate 15 and 40 safe when we have injury traffic accidents. So therefore, I'm requesting that this check be signed. You know, I made this announcement when we first started talking about the CAL FIRE money. This is not coming out of the district's budget. It's not even budgeted for. And I'm asking that I do not run into roadblocks anymore when my guys go out and earn money and I need to provide them with PPE. So again, the t-shirts, the badges, they all come out of our money that we earned, not out of the district's money and not out of the taxpayers' money. So that's it. I mean, when I first talked about CAL FIRE funding and stuff, I mentioned badges, I mentioned PPE, I mentioned equipment, you know, that the district couldn't afford and that it's not on the budget. And I did not want to take away from the community nor take away from the taxpayers. So, you know, this is the first time that we've had a fire department that's capable. This is the first time we've had the fire department fully functional with licensed firefighter 1, 2, engineers, captains, and EMTs. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chief Brakebill. Director Lord, do you have any questions or comments for Chief?
I have a question, but it's more towards Steve on this part. The check that's drawn up, is that on a red check or is it on a green check?
It's on a red check.
Okay. And the price for those badges, I don't have the, obviously the bill or whatever in front of me, but they were like 80 some dollars a piece, weren't they?
99
That's right,
each,
that was at-
and the bill's about $2,000, $2,100 for all the badges we're getting. Yeah.
Okay, so that's my question on that is, it's like $2,000. Wasn't even on the money that came from CAL FIRE, was that not to be brought before the board if it was over a certain amount? Or am I mistaken?
I was told that if it was over, I had $750 to spend out of the budgeted CSD money for fire department. I went over that, I had to come and get permission from the board. Unless it was an emergency, then it was up to $1,500. And Chief, usually if I have misspoke, you can correct me on that.
Okay, so this bill is $2,000. So that's over the $750. So it needed to be brought before the board. Am I correct?
No, this is out of the CAL FIRE money. This isn't out of the district's budget.
Okay, that's what I just asked, was even with the CAL FIRE money, is it required to come before the board? Or is that just money that you can spend however and we just sign and don't care where it's going?
No, I'm accountable for it. And yes, if you want it to come before the board, but there's often times the board doesn't meet, or there's difficult times with getting people to go sign the checks and get the bills paid. There will be times like now with all the wildland fires and everything where I have to make badges up. This is separate. I'm talking about the equipment and stuff. I don't have time to wait for 2 months for people to come over and sign a check so I can get safety equipment. Now,
Right, but right now we're not talking about
I made my
equipment. We're talking about the badges
correct,
only.
and I made my case. I made my case about the badges. I'm bringing it before the board now. I asked Janika to hold off on signing the check until we can determine where the CAL FIRE money went. And again, you know, it's a small price to pay for our people to come up here and spend hundreds of dollars out of their pockets. So I'm urging the board to
Right.
go ahead and approve this purchase.
Okay, and I'm not disputing the fact that it's a small price to pay or anything like that. The fact that I'm
I know you're
disputing
not.
is, I just need to know if it's CAL FIRE money, are we gonna make it come before the board, or are we just gonna sign whatever is spent? And unlike if it is coming out of the CSD budget, we need to know if it's over a certain amount. My opinion is, even though it's CAL FIRE money and it's money that you guys earned, we still have to keep track of it, and it still needs to be brought to the board so that we can say, okay, yes, we got that. It was over this amount. So there's no question as to what's going on. That's my opinion.
And I can honestly say, Clarissa, of 3 years I've been here, every purchase I've made, I brought before the board.
Right, but this one
even when it was below $750, I still got the advice of the board.
Yeah, what I'm questioning is not any other bills that you've done. It's this $2,000 bill that was expected for the check to be signed, and that was not brought before the board. So that's where I'm questioning why it would have been done before we even gave a dollar amount, or we even said okay, or whatever the case may be. I understand that your guys need them. I'm not disputing that. It's the fact that we need to stick to what we're saying. And if we're going to do it one way, we need to do it that way. If we're going to do it a different way, we need to do it that way. But we can't do this one this time and this one that time and not follow protocol. So that's why
as far as I know, there's never been a time when a purchase was made that didn't come before the board. Right now, this is placed on the agenda, so it comes before the board.
Okay, but it's coming before the board now. But that check is one that I myself refused to sign because it had not been brought before the board. There was a bill for it. There was a check made out for it, but I would not sign it because it was not brought before the board. So I do see now it's being brought before the board. I just need to know if it's CAL FIRE money, or is it over a certain amount? My opinion is, even though it's CAL FIRE money and it's money that you guys earned, we still have to keep track of it, and it still needs to be brought to the board so that we can say, okay, yes, we got that. It was over this amount. So there's no question as to what's going on. That's my opinion.
And I can honestly say, Clarissa,
but we need to do that before there's a bill and before
A
there's a
check printed. Mhm.
All right,
And
and
that-
I need to clarify, because
So-
during wildland fire season, if I need to make a purchase from CAL FIRE money, now, do I have to sit here and wait for the board to meet and then wait for the directors to come over and sign a check while my equipment is out on the fire ground? There needs to be some exceptions to this rule. Now, the badges, yes, I'm bringing them before the board now. No issue there. I'm not making an issue out of it. I agree. And so all I'm asking is that you approve it. But there are going to be some exceptions, and that we need to realize that. You know, our guys are out there making money for the district, so we don't have to ask the taxpayers for money, nor get into the TSD budget.
Yeah, okay.
So there are going to be some times when I'm going to need to make a decision. That's what you got a fire chief for. But no, purchases like the badge, no problem. We'll bring it before the board like we're doing now.
So Chief
That's it.
Brakebill, I think the understanding is that if it was over 750, no matter which account it's coming from, it would be brought before the board. You did state that if it was an emergency, you do have the authority to make those purchases up to a certain dollar amount. I can't remember if it's 3,000 or 5 or 1,500. I haven't read the policy yet. But okay. Do we have Director Shields? Do you have any questions or comments?
The only thing I talked to Chief about was I was very curious on purchasing the 20 badges of the people that would be receiving them. I've not heard of them or know of them. I was just curious to meet them and see who they were. It was the only question I really had about this.
But $50,000 disappears out of my account. That's no.
Hello, I can answer that question for you. We're going to have a badge ceremony after they get off their probation, so you can meet them all.
Okay. Thank you, Captain Mareb. Director Yearsley, do you have any questions or concerns?
Yeah. So since it seems like we have such a dilemma on knowing the amounts that Chief has and what he doesn't have, I would suggest, obviously, the easy thing tonight is to okay these and move on tonight, but it should be put on the agenda to have a extensive talk on his limits during regular, fire department exercise, in an emergency situation, and in a catastrophic where he's got to get things that there's not time to wait for even an emergency meeting. Because right now, it seems like everybody's confused on a different amount, 750, 1,000, 1,500, 5,000. So to me, this has got to be determined in a meeting where we have it on the agenda. We're kind of going outside of our agenda item here. So I would ask Steve to please put that down for next month's agenda. And from now until then, we could leave it the non-emergency at what Janika said. She thought it was $750 for both. I think that his own money was up to $1,500, but we do need to get this figured out because it's really hard to run a fire department if you do have guys going out on strike teams and you're short items to be able to go, because a lot of things are mandatory to have when they got on these strike teams. They have to have everything, not just part of it, because we're a volunteer station. So we do need to make it a little bit easier for him, number one, to know how much he can spend in all the different situations. So I suggest that that gets put on the next meeting and we give him an exact dollar amount for every situation he'll be.
Yes, Director Lohr?
Yeah, I agree with Gary. And then we also need to figure out a budget for him and how much, let him know exactly how much money he has. So that way he knows what he can budget into that amount of money. Because he's been saying for a long time he doesn't have any idea how much money he has, where money has gone to, or anything like that. So we need to get him that as well. So at this
I
time,
can answer that, Clarissa.
yeah.
Larissa, on the last item I asked to be added, that was the audit to be able to find out where the money is and how much he has left.
Right. Yeah, we need to get that done.
Okay. I believe we have heard from all of the directors. My only comment on this was I thought it was a $750 amount that had to be brought before the board, so I didn't sign the check. And we could vote on it now since it is in front of us. Do we have a motion from one of the directors?
I motion that we pay the $2,000 bill
Point of
for
order.
the badges.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
We need
Chris,
to give, we need to give public comment.
Thank you. Do we have public comment on this time, at this time? Yes, Ms. King, I see your hand.
Thank you. So I just wanted to also add that I thank the firefighters for the efforts that they make coming up here from out of district to serve our community. I think it's fantastic. I think that the badges are a great use of some of the CAL FIRE money because the firefighters, we bill for them at a rate that is higher than what we pay them for their time on strike teams. So this is an excellent use of that money. I want to add a comment though. This is not directed towards any of the firefighters we have currently, but in many years past, one of the concerns that we've had or problem we've had with the money that was spent on badges is that the badges were spent or paid for by the CSD. And then when firefighters got disgruntled or moved on just naturally, they took the badges with them. The question I would have is, are these badges being gifted to the firefighters from the CAL FIRE money, or are they being issued from the fire department and therefore returned to the fire department to be passed on to their next brother in line who serves this community? I also want to say that I appreciate the directors who question things that should be put on the agendas, and I thank them for getting this on the agenda. That is the exact thing that I appreciate from those who are elected to serve my community, and I appreciate that effort. I know that in the face of all of the sacrifices that people are making right now to serve, that it is hard not to just sign things and not follow the process properly due to our emotions of gratitude. So thank you for your service and fire department, and thank you for your service for our community directors.
Thank you, Ms. King.
I want to
Rick,
respond to
did you
Lisa's
have-
comment.
Thank you.
I want to respond to Lisa's comment.
Yes.
Okay. I stated earlier that unlike the previous badges, these are all serial numberized and they are going to be accounted for in our emergency reporting inventory system. I think I've said more than one time, and I don't have control on what happened before I got here. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Chief Breakbill. Now, do we have a motion before the board?
Yes, I was wanting to motion that we approve this. I don't know the exact dollar amount of the bill. I do know it's under $2,200. So I want a motion that we have a $2,200 spent on badges and get these checks signed.
Do we have a second for Director Yearsley's motion?
Sorry, I thought my thing was off. I'll second the motion.
Okay. Director Shields, how do you vote for the motion presented?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Yearsley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Lohr, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Smith is absent, and I will vote aye as well. Thank you. Last, item on the agenda is the one that was added at the beginning. It is to discuss the forensic audit, I believe, and I'm putting a dollar amount on that. Mr. Nelson, do you want to give us an update on where we are in this process?
Sure. In the budget committee, we've allotted $12,000 for the audit for this year. The basic audit is going to be around $8,100. I've spoken with the auditor, and we're not doing a full-on forensic audit, but we are going to do a targeted audit. What we would call a mini forensic. And he's working with us to where if he starts to look into things and finds nothing, or what he finds leads him to nowhere, he won't even charge us for anything. But as it develops and he finds things and they start to move him in a certain direction, that's when the billing will come up. He estimates it'll cost around $3,000 to $4,000. He won't do anything over and beyond the $4,000 max, and that's what puts us at the $12,000 without talking to us first and authorizing any more money spent. But that's where we're at in the audit at this point. We have too many questions. There are far too many questions, and this needs to be done. And we're doing the average. A full forensic audit runs between $14,000 and $17,000. I've gotten 3 bids. The lowest bid was $14,250. The highest bid was almost $20,000, and the middle bid was around $15,000, $16,000. With our auditor, we can do a smaller one, save a bundle of money, and still get the effect we're looking for and the results we're looking for and needing. And so that's where we're at this point.
Okay, I'd like to comment on that, Steve. The 2 that I found to do for forensic were, as you were saying, between the $10,000 and $11,000 mark for a complete forensic. I like the idea that if he starts in and doesn't see anything, we cut back. That price at $4,000 is probably the best I've ever heard at all the audits I've ever had done. I don't know what the other directors think, but I think this has got to be done. I think we're about 4 months behind getting it done. We need to get this done so we can move on. We've got questions on checks for the Welcome Center, and not saying that problems or not, but we've got a lot of questions. We just need to get answered. And I think tonight we need a vote to move on with this.
Thank you, Director Yearsley. Director Shields, do you have any questions or comments?
The only thing I have is I agree with Gary. It should have been done before now, but at this present time, we need to get moving on it and get her done. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Shields. Director Laura?
Same thing. I just agree. We've been talking about this for months and trying to get prices on this. There's too many questions. Chief Brakebill can't run his fire department without knowing exactly how much money he has in CAL FIRE or where his money has gone. And we can't continue to run our CSD if there's so many questions and people aren't trusting each other. So we need to go ahead and get this done, get it put behind us so we can move forward. That's all I got.
Thank you, Director Laura. Okay, I don't have any comments that weren't previously stated, so I will let that go there, and we'll go to public comments at this time. Do we have any public comments? I'm looking through. I don't see any hands raised in the videos or any hands raised through Zoom. So I think we are good on public comment for this one. Do we have any director who would like to present a motion?
Yes, I'd like to motion that we move forward with the forensic audit. How Steve has mentioned it's going to be done through the people that are doing a regular audit. not spending more than $4,000 without further approval by the board.
And I'd like to make a second.
I'm sorry, did we have a second? My internet cut out a bit.
Debbie
Yes.
second.
Yes,
Okay.
I'd make a second, please. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director Shields. Director Lohr, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Yearsley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Shields, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Director Sin is absent. I will vote aye on this item as well. The motion passes. Okay. Let me go back to my other agenda, my other page. Sorry, everyone. Okay. That is it for our items today. Director Lohr, do you have anything to report?
I just want to report that I did have COVID-19. It's not fun. And I just got retested and I've tested negative. So my husband and I we're both good to go. My son and his family up in Washington got it also. So it was a little bit of a scary time for us. So I know Chief Breakville prayed for us. I'm sure there's others that knew and were praying too. So I just want to say thank you for that. It's real, it's out there, and we need to take it seriously. I didn't at first. I would wear my mask. I would do the 6 feet distancing, whatever. But I thought, you know what? What are the odds of COVID touching me? Not very likely. Well, I was wrong. And I think that we need to make sure that Chief Breakville and his crew are safe as much as they can possibly be, being out there with all these people that do have, that are showing symptoms and signs of COVID. It took me 2 weeks to get my test results back. So during those 2 weeks, we were quarantined as soon as we found out that we were exposed to it. So we weren't out and about in Yermo to where we could infect anybody else. But it's taking a long time for these tests to come back in some situations. So we just need to make sure this person that they come in contact to could have been up to 2 weeks after they've been exposed themselves. We don't know. So we need to make sure that they have the equipment that they need so that they are protected as much as possible, because even wearing a mask, even social distancing, somehow, somewhere we caught it. We don't know where, but it's real, and we need to make sure that our fire department's safe. The only other thing I have is the fire that is over in Daggett towards the airport, the brush fire that was going on. I don't know if they've gotten it put out yet, but I can tell you that the smell is horrendous. So we appreciate you guys. We appreciate what you're doing. And we appreciate you guys keeping us safe. And that's all I got.
Thank you,
Thank
Director
you.
Lohr.
I'd like to comment on her response. Thank you so much, Clarissa. That means a lot to us. And just as it is in the CSD, we expect people to call the department if they want to come in and see us. We do put our masks on, we do go outside, we do answer their question at social distancing, but you just can't come into the department like that and think that we're going to talk to you. We will send you away. And know that that isn't in Daggett. The fire is in Yermo, and it should be under control in about an hour.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Captain Marav, for that. Director Shields, do you have anything to report at this time?
At this point, the school district, just heads up, is working on trying to get especially the special ed and particular circumstance of students back into the classes. It's been quite a struggle. It's really difficult, but they are working on it. It is in the process. Hopefully soon. It's a tough one, but they are working on it. I wanted everybody to be aware of that. And that's pretty much, there ain't much going on anywhere else. We do have a leak over on 4th Street, but Ron was quick to get there and get it taken care of, so, or at least work on it. So that's a positive because I had no water. But other than that, I think everything's at best can be at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Shield. Director Yearsley, do you have anything to report?
I always have something to say, Janika. All right, so these are, of course, my own comments. And so if anybody doesn't like them, it's just how I feel. I understand, I want to start with Mike Henderson's questions and things. I want Mike to know that as a board member myself, I never thought that there was anything wrong with what was going on at the Welcome Center. I do think that him and Steve have got to get together and figure out where all this money, checks and all that was written. And I think those two together will figure that out. I don't think there was any wrongdoing. I just think there's either miscommunication or something wrong they need to work on. Number two, I think this board has to really understand Chief Breakbill's frustration with trying to run a fire department. I mean, I run a CSD and a fire department, and when you need money to send your firemen out, or your firemen are going out with someone with COVID or whatever it might be, your frustration is that if one gets sick, one gets infected because you don't have the right PPEs, your whole fire department's gone. He's talking out of a sense of one person can ruin the whole fire department for 2 weeks. That means we don't do any runs for over 2 weeks. And so when he gets frustrated about the badges not being signed, which I understand that's not a COVID thing, but it's on a stack of things of money that's not there, money that was there in the beginning for him to use for stuff that a lot of the items would have been budgeted items. So the fire department has been paying stuff that would normally be under a budget, and that takes away from their money for extra items that they need for their trucks. And again, I can go to the new brush engine that they got with all the paint and all the work and all the money that was put into it. But yet 3 months ago, I went on a drive into Barstow where they did a drive by Richard's mom's house with no hose, no tools on it. And at that point, we were trying to figure out how to get those, and there's no money to do it. And no, there might be money, but we didn't know where it was. So that's a frustration that thing is set all this time. A fire department vehicle that we need to take care of our community, that the community's already put, you know what, $40,000 into, but yet we can't go on calls because we don't have tools and hose. To me, I understand his frustration, and you guys are probably tired of hearing from him, but his only want is to make sure that fire department takes care of its community, that the community has put out the money that they can to get it there. So I think it's only fair to Chief Breakbill that we get this money worked out, which we're doing. We voted to move on with it, to give him amounts that he can use, give him situations in emergencies where he can use what he has to have. So everybody should understand his frustrations, not just be frustrated with him on keeping asking. I would say 80% of the stuff he's asked for should have been able to be taken care of in his first request or months ago. And PPEs, I tell you what, down here, I don't have a limit on what my guys use because I don't need any of them catching anything. Gloves, aprons, goggles, shields, whatever they want. You got to make sure these guys don't catch stuff. And as Clarissa said, you don't know where it's at. You might go in on somebody that has not one thing that shows that they've got that, but they have it. Okay. And if they're not wearing PPEs every time because maybe they don't have gloves, maybe they don't have masks. Okay. And then they're going to get it. Then what is the fire going to think of when he goes, I just lost my whole fire department. Should I be able more? So everybody needs to understand that we're going to get this audit done. We're going to find out what he has, what he can do, how much he can spend. And then I think everything will calm down. But I did want to bring that up, that his frustration is triple what yours is for him to continue to ask. And when we run into things where it's like, should or shouldn't we sign, we need to jump in there and maybe figure it out by having a special meeting or whatever when it comes to PPEs, because I was in part of trying to getting PPEs when my credit card was canceled and we had an order on the computer, and that even frustrated me bad. So I think we need to work hard on getting the fire department stuff straightened away so he can do his job. That's all I have.
Thank you, Director Yearsley.
Hello. Can I comment on that? Because we did
Oh.
have a CPR in progress, and we went in to help the patient, and we come to find out all 5 people in that house had COVID. So I did have to be quarantined for 2 weeks, and we didn't have proper PPE. It was very scary being tested 3 times and not being able to be around my family or anybody else. And it seemed like we were treated like second-class citizens. It wasn't very cool.
Captain Marev, I appreciate your comment, but we're making our reports right now. So
Can I piggyback, please?
Yes, Director.
I'm sorry. Another thing I wanted to address was the fact that it was brought to our attention now that people are being allowed in the office and dropping things off, and even if it's through the door or whatever. We voted for the office to be closed, so they shouldn't be having any contact with those people on the outside. I understand that people want to pay for their flags or whatever, but we can't. There again, COVID is real. And if we're allowing one person in the office, we need to allow them all in the office, basically. And if it's closed, it's closed. So we need to determine what we're going to do about that. Are they able to see any people, or are we closed?
I think we'd have to bring that up either at a special meeting, or we're going to have to bring it on the next agenda. I know that's a long time away, but you know, it's not, we can't bring up stuff that we don't have on the agenda, but it is a good point.
Okay, can we add it to the special meeting when we do the budget, if that's possible?
I would agree with that.
We can do that.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson and Nate, can you notate that, please?
Yeah, it's just because we've already voted that it's closed, but if they're allowing people in there, we can't be doing that while we have it closed.
Understood. Okay. As the last director, I'm going to keep it very short, my report. I just want to thank all the firefighters for what you guys are doing. Especially right now during this fire season, we see the smoke everywhere. Earlier this week, the ash was raining down. Now with the fire over here in Yermo, when I was driving home, I saw the flames and the big plume of smoke. It's scary. I thank you guys for what you do. I personally, I don't think I have it in me to be as passionate as you are. So I do understand where the chief is coming from. You guys do need to be kept safe. You need to have the proper equipment. On that note, let me clarify with the office staff if our PPE is being ordered through that streamlined process that you said. You guys had a website. Are we ordering PPE that way for the fire department? Mr. Nelson, Nate?
No, we are not ordering PPEs through the company we're getting normal supplies from. That is done through the fire department, and we get the invoice.
Okay. Do you currently have an invoice for any orders or any orders pending?
Not since the last one we put through, no.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just make sure we don't have that breakdown of communication, especially when it's for PPE. I don't really have anything else to.
Janika, I'm confused because the fire department doesn't have any credit cards or stuff to buy PPE, so it can't be done through the fire department. It'll have to be done through the CSD office,
right? Okay.
Gary,
The last order we got, the PPEs were ordered and we were given an invoice and we paid the invoice. We did not order the PPEs.
Is that for what we brought before the board?
Reimbursed.
Is that the reimbursement that we're speaking of?
It was a reimbursement
Okay,
for Chief
so-
because he purchased them
so,
on his
let's-
personal credit card.
Okay,
And who
everyone,
ordered-
let's just do it this way. When the fire department needs more PPE, please let the office staff know, let them know how much, let them know quantities, and then we'll get it taken care of. I don't have anything else to report. On that note, let's go to identification for items for future meetings. We just stated one about the office. Will it be fully closed? Will it be appointments only? We need to have that on there. We will have another item for the budget to be approved, but that will be in a special meeting as well. I cannot think of anything else. Am I forgetting something? Any of the directors?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Oh, Clarissa? Yes.
Yeah, can we put something on there for next month to get at least a date on where the auditor is for the mini forensic?
Oh, yes, that would be good. And then we also have to have, I guess, I don't know if it would be an update or just an item on there for the chief's dollar amounts on what his spendings are and what he needs to be bring before the board. I think that is everything. Yes, Director
My
Schultz?
question is this. I'm confused. I mean, I'm just trying to understand. If we need a closed session, can any of the directors request one, or does that have to go through the president? Or I'm not sure. I'm just curious how that works.
So if we need, if any of the directors would like a closed session to occur, they would just request one.
Okay,
Just let me
all right.
know.
All right. I wasn't sure how that went. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And then
No problem.
we request it at that time, and then it goes on the agenda for the next meeting, correct?
Yes, and then we would need to provide a letter to the individual at least 24 hours ahead
Okay.
of time, and we take it from there.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, I believe that is everything. Directors, do you want to take a couple minutes before we go into the closed session?
Lise has her hands up.
Oh, Lise, I'm
another
sorry, I
possible-
can't see you.
It's okay. I'm sorry. I think I have another possible based off of what the chief requested regarding a fuel card for strike teams. So you may need to add that to the next agenda as well.
Okay,
Okay.
thank
I
you.
think
We can.
I think if he needs that, especially now with these fires going on, I think that
It would
needs
need
to
to be
be
the
added.
special meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 3 items for the special.
See if my hand here. Okay. All right. Just want to let everybody know the fire is out.
Yay, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Great. It was really close to home.
Yes.
We
Would
thought it
we
did.
like to take a couple-minute break? I got a crying baby, so I want to take 5 if you guys don't mind.
Will you be doing a closed session report at the end?
Yes, we will.
Thank you. We'll see.
Wait, hold on, are
It's
we
an
going
open
into session, or he wanted it in open session?
Oh, he did want it in open session. I'm sorry, Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so
A 5-minute adjournment?
do you guys mind? Does everyone mind? I would like a 5-minute adjournment.
Yeah, let's take a few minutes.
Okay, all right. I will see everybody back here at 8:40 or 8:41. Sorry, that minute just changed. 8:41. Thank you.
Ready?
Ready.
I'm
Okay, I believe I heard from Director Shields, Director Lohr, Director Yearsley, and Mr. Nelson. If that is the case, then we are ready to begin. It is now 8:43, and we are back from our adjournment. Let's. Sorry, is there someone else speaking, or is it an echo on my part? Yes, Director Lohr?
Yeah, I'd like to make the recommendation that before we start this, that
Mhm.
we make it clear, one person speak at a time, so we're not talking over each other. If somebody wants to speak, they need to raise their hand or raise their virtual hand so that you know somebody else is wanting to chime in. But let one person talk at a time. Otherwise, it's just going to be banter and we're not going to get anything accomplished.
I agree with that statement, Director Lohr. Also, I would like to request that that if you are not one of the directors or Mr. Nelson, you refrain from speaking and you keep yourself on mute while we're having this discussion. And if you would like to make a comment, we can address that at the end. But this is really just for the directors and Mr. Nelson. Okay. All right, so, sorry. This closed session is a,
It's not close.
oh, this employee review about the general manager, sorry.
That's okay.
Is occurring due to a couple of things that need to be addressed. So the first one that, hello? Okay, so the first one on the employee review letter that I sent Mr. Nelson, it states that we're discussing his decision as general manager to not inform or ask Director Sint to sign the required paperwork in order to add him as a signer of the Yermo Community Services District bank account. He did not ask him without board approval or knowledge. The next item is the continued insubordination in regards to not informing a member of the budget committee of scheduled meetings and updates. And lastly, I have the continued aggressive manner in which you address conflicting conversations and ideas when speaking to members of the board and members of the public. At this time, I would like Mr. Nelson to address each complaint. And then after he addresses them, then the directors can speak as well.
All right, thank you for giving me this opportunity to explain why we got here and how we got here tonight. To begin with, I don't see any problem with the budget committee. We've done very well. We've not had anybody not get anything. Nobody's requested something that they didn't get, so I don't know what this is about. But as for the rest of it, we are here because I had the foresight to remove Director Sint as a check signer for the Yermo CSD. Doing so was well within my job duties as general manager, executive officer, and treasurer for the Yermo Community Services District. Per policy handbook number 2300.1, the general manager is the executive officer of the district and for the board of directors and has the general charge, responsibility, and control over all property of the district. Policy number 2000 states The general manager shall also act as the Yermo Community Services District treasurer as per provisions of the California Government Code. Therefore, this attempt to prevent me from doing my job I don't feel is justified. In the 4 months, the almost 4 months that I've been here, I've noticed an ongoing, consistent pattern. And that pattern is mishandling of money. In every instant that I could find, and which I will explain, it all came back and comes back to one person, Director Sint. To begin with, on October 31st, 2019, Director Sint transferred or wired $50,000 out of the Cal Fire Fire Department account and initially sent it to the CSD main account. He told me that was to cover payroll and it was put back later. It was not put back later, and our current audit will let us know where exactly those funds ended up, because we, at this point, do not have definitive proof. But this was done without board knowledge or approval. Next, Director Sint wired $6,000 from the Cal Fire Department account, wired it to the CSD main account. He used that money to open 6 bank accounts in Troy, Michigan with a balance of $1,000 each. Again, this was done without board knowledge or approval. Director Sint also opened a secret account he named Suspense. When I accidentally found that account, I personally asked each director, each one of you, if you knew about that account, and each time you said no. I asked if you knew how much money was in that account. You said no. In a board meeting, I actually made the statement that I thought maybe it didn't really exist. And Director Sint said, no, it exists. We just don't use that account. Funny, Director Sint had one of the credit cards that he used tied directly to that account. And for the record, there is currently around $44,000 in that not-so-secret account. There have been countless charges for Prime Video rentals tied to a credit card in Director Sint's control. Many of those took place in April of 2020. Director Sint had all medical supplies belonging to the Yermo Calico Fire Department shipped to his home. Director Sint told me that he put $5,000 in the Parks and Rec account for fiscal 2019-2020. At that time, he headed up Parks and Rec. I emailed Director Sint last month and asked for the accounting of said money spent on Parks and Rec, explaining that it would be very beneficial for my upcoming budget committee meeting. He still hasn't replied. And there is no accounting of the $4,000 spent by Parks and Rec in 2019 and 2020. And I assume it's $4,000. He told me he put $5,000 in the account for Parks and Rec. There's only $1,000 remaining. That means there's $4,000 in explanations. Because the Yermo CSD was without a general manager for about a year, Director Sint was the administrator on banking, accounting, our QuickBooks, our email system, and our website. Once hired, Director Sint was supposed to hand over the administrator status on all things to the general manager. To date, Director Sint has handed over nothing. The only reason I have control of banking is because we went to the bank. I had them send papers. Each of you saw all papers. Each of you saw all names on those papers. And his name, Michael Sint, was not on, and nobody said a word. We issued all new paperwork, re-signed, and started from scratch. Yeah. So now I have control of banking. I am the administrator for all banking. Again, I am the administrator for all banking, and now I'm being brought into a session because my president says I have no authority. We are currently waiting on roughly $40,000 in grant money coming back to the Yermo Calico Fire Department. I'm being told by both Chief Breakbill and Captain Morab that they will not, let me repeat, they have verbally said this to me, they will not turn over any checks or any money to be deposited so long as Director Sint has any access to our banking system. In closing, before any board member receives a title, any title, They are directors first. Policy number 4070. The board of directors is the unit of authority within the district. Apart from his or her normal function as a part of this unit, directors have no individual authority. As individuals, directors may not commit the district to any policy, act, or expenditure. It is for these reasons I removed Director Sint as a check signer. It is for these reasons I stand behind that decision. And it is for these reasons I find this session totally and completely unjustified. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson, did you want to address any of the other two
I
comments?
believe
in your
I
letter?
did in the beginning.
Okay,
I thought
If
I
that
did
is-
in the beginning.
okay. I was just making sure you didn't have any further comments at this time. All right, I will bring it to the board now. Hello? Is someone speaking? Okay. Director Lord, do you have any questions or comments?
The one comment I have to make is on the bank accounts. You stated that we all saw that Director Sint's name was not on there. I can personally speak for myself. I saw the line that I was supposed to sign on. That's where I signed. I did not look at any other directors' names that were on there. As far as removing Director Sint from being a signer on the account, being a signer does not give you access to where you can go in and transfer money or anything like that. The only one that can do that is the person, which you are now, Mr. Nelson, the executor or whatever it's called over all the accounts. I myself am a signer. Yeah, administrator. I myself am a signer, but I cannot go into the bank and move any funds, take any funds out or anything like that.
Yes, you can.
From
The
what
bank
I was
has
told, no, I
informed me-
can't.
Well, the bank has informed me directly that so long as any one of you know the account numbers and have access to the bank, you can do anything you want. That is direct quote from the bank.
Well, that was not what I was told when I was president of the board. And when we originally voted to have all directors be signers, when I went to the bank, I was not able to do anything but sign checks. In order to sign checks, there has to be 2 signatures on the check. So even if Director Sint was to sign the check, somebody else would have to sign with him or it would not go through the bank. The only reason I'm questioning this is because we have problems already getting the bills paid. If Debbie or myself are not able to go in and sign, because that's who usually does it, and then Janika comes in as she can, there's nobody to sign checks. If I'm out of town, Debbie's out of town, whatever the case may be, we need to have enough people to be able to sign the checks. So the bills get paid, so Chief Breakbill gets what he needs, so we can run the district. I just was quarantined for 2.5 weeks. You know, I couldn't go in to sign checks. So like you guys said before, there's checks in there that need to be signed that aren't getting signed. Well, if we had enough board members that could go in there to sign, they would be taken care of. That's my opinion on that. I do have to say, I agree with the fact that we need to do the fiscal audit, which we are doing. My credit card, which I specifically turned in the night that we were told we needed to turn in our, or we voted that we were all going to give up our credit cards. I specifically turned my credit card in. I received a call from the bank a couple weeks ago stating that over, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Nelson, was over $5,000 worth of charges on my credit card. And I had no possession of that card. Those were the Prime Video accounts. There were charges for gas stations, just stuff that I did not charge on my credit card. So who made those
And you were
charges?
very angry.
Yes, who made those charges? I have no idea. But there again, it had to be somebody that had access to the card, not just signing on the bank accounts. If what you're saying is true, that we can do whatever, I was not aware of that. I was only aware of the fact that you could be a signer on the account, and whoever was in charge of the account had the administrative rights to do everything else. I personally
I do
asked you.
have the letter from the bank. I would share with you.
Okay,
I
did.
I do have that letter from the bank, so I would be happy to share it with all of you.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to address, Steve, was the situation between Mr. Henderson and the amount of money that's being spent. I personally asked you and said it would be a good idea if you would get in contact with Mr. Henderson and go over the checks, go over where the bank account were and all that, so that we could get it figured out as to how much money was actually spent, because I couldn't believe that we were over that much over what we thought we had spent. And you told me that you didn't want to do that. So it could have saved a whole lot of trouble with Mr. Henderson and all this stuff going on had we just gotten a hold of Mr. Henderson and went over the information with him, which you're going to be doing Monday. The
Well,
other thing
basically, I just did that now. I mean, seriously,
So,
the only thing I could give
Mr. Nelson, excuse me, Mr. Nelson, can you let the director speak, and then you'll have a chance to address everything after, just so we don't have this back and forth and it doesn't bother me out.
I'm sorry, I thought I was being asked a question. I apologize.
No problem. And then, so that, we could have done that if we would have done that a few months ago, got with him like you're going to do on Monday. This whole thing could have been avoided. My second thing or my third thing, I guess, is as far as not including individuals in the emails and stuff. I understand that that's been taken care of from what I've heard, but we can't just take it upon ourselves not to email somebody regardless of what our feelings are or whatever. If they're on the committee, if they're on a list, we need to make sure that they're notified. We need to kind of, I understand that we all have personal feelings, but we need to make sure that those feelings don't get in the way of the business of the CSD. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Director Laura. Okay, Director Shields, do you have any comments you would like to make at this time?
Yes, I think we have came from drowning to seeing some light at the tunnel. And my concern is this: when we had someone sitting in as general manager and trying to take care of this stuff, there was never a closed session. I don't understand. If that is the problem, why didn't we have closed session then, when there was a lot of discontent and confusion going on at that point? But since we've got a general manager that is now stated as a general manager, we've had 2 closed sessions, and it's not making sense to me. We are finally getting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. We are finding out things that we should have been aware of that we were not. And I'm just totally beside myself trying to figure out why there is such a discrimination and hardship in somebody that's trying to do their job, and that is finally getting us to the top and helping us to succeed. My concern was this: if it would have kept going the way it was, I have a very strong concern that we would have fell flat on our face and had nothing. And now we're starting to get some light. And why are we trying to destroy that? I'm not sure on that. You guys may have your own opinions and concerns about the way things are being done. I have not seen it in the ways you have. I have seen a person that is knowledgeable, educated, and willing to take the step to do what needs to be done and helping us to get where we need to be. That's what I am seeing. So as far as you having all these letters or letters that you sent out about the stuff you're discontent with, I have not experienced it. So I've just seen a person that's doing their job. And now because we're getting our job done and it is now being things found out that maybe people don't want to be found out, we are now trying to destroy a person. I try to get this has happened. I've been here for 4 years. It has happened repeatedly. If someone starts to do their job and starts to get us out of the fog, somebody tries to come in and get rid of them. And 9/10 of the time, unfortunately, the people that we have had that was bringing us to the surface ended up leaving because they got pushed so far to the point where they couldn't do it any longer. And I'm not understanding that. I've been in this town all my life. And I know.
So Director Shields,
Okay, you're asking me to talk and let me talk, please. Okay.
I'm
Thank
going to let you talk. I would just like your questions and comments, if they could please just be made towards what we're discussing with
Okay.
Mr. Nelson,
Okay.
not about things that happened in the past.
Okay, my question to you, why are you having issue with this general manager? You didn't have it with, did not have it with the director that was in that position, because you never one time did a closed session, not one time. And we had problems going on. That's my question to you.
Okay, so I can answer that, and I will be answering that. I would like to ask Director Yearsley if he would like to speak first. And then after Director Yearsley speaks, then I will present what I have.
Okay, well, I'm going to kind of go in the same route that Steve did. Steve kind of started with the second part of it, where it discusses the fact of not adding people into emails and stuff. It's kind of backwards what I'm gonna do, but I want to do that because I don't really feel that's a problem at this point. In the beginning of our committee, there was a person that was not receiving emails or invitations. And I'm going to explain why I feel in the next part. But right now, I want to let everybody know that Steve, after speaking and working with the committee, has corrected that and was working well with everybody on the committee. And I don't think that anybody on the committee feels that Steve wasn't putting in over 100% on that committee. Now I'm going to go back to the start of the list of things that I guess, Janika, I guess I'll just use your name because I mean, this, I guess, was put out by you because nobody contacted me. So I don't know
it was,
who else
you could use my name. That's perfectly fine.
Okay. Okay. So that you brought these up. I'm going to tell you, as I worked in the same situation as Steve does, I really feel that we brought on a general manager and us as directors put him in an impossible situation. Personally, I don't really understand why he stood around and stayed around, because I think that we put him through abuse he didn't need to be put through. As the months before Steve come on, even probably almost a year before Steve come on, we were allowing one of the directors to do things that I constantly commented were against Brown Act, the rules. We were allowing a director to work with money, which is way outside of what any director should be doing. Moving money, making bank accounts. As Steve said in his part, the general manager is the only one that has the ability to do that. And as a director, if you are going to do that, you have to step down and out of your director's position, because as a director, you are not allowed to move and handle money and work with the banks. We were moving money, $6,000, $50,000 as a one director without an okay from the board. Michael would show up to the meeting and say, I made 6 new accounts and this is why. No board member had any say in it. No board member had any say in us moving bank accounts across the United States to somewhere else for a reason, saying that they won't do those accounts in this state. Well, that's not true, because I do them down here in Morongo. I'm not here to cut down on Mike. I'm here to say that I think that we put Steve in an impossible situation, and I agree Steve got in a very defensive mode because everybody started jumping back on him. He asked for his responsibilities to be given to him. He asked for bank accounts to be turned over to him. He asked for the job that he had taken on to be given to him. He could not get administrator to accounts. He couldn't get administrator to the bank. He couldn't get accounts. He couldn't get people to talk to, but yet we were still asking him to do a job. I think that would bring a frustration out of anybody. And I think Michael Sant added to that by not complying with what the general manager was asking. At the time the general manager was put in, there should have been a 100% changeover of everything that Michael had to Steve immediately. I don't think we got that. I don't think the cooperation of Director Sant was there, and I think it should have been. I think the day that Steve got put on, everything should have been given him in order for him to do his job, and we didn't give him the keys and tools to do his job. Where he has told you guys today, he has looked up policies, procedures that should have been followed, and we were not followed. So as much as everybody, or as much as Janika might have thought that he was doing things wrong against Michael, I think we were treating him wrong in the sense that he had a job to do. We were not allowing him to do it. Yes, he was defensive. I've said that already. But we put him in the job, but yet we didn't give him the tools, and he had to be defensive and start pushing things to get things done. It probably would have been easier for him to just say, you know what? They don't want a general manager. I'm trying to do it. They won't give it to me. Maybe this job's just not for me. Well, we've lost other general managers for that exact reason. We didn't empower them with the job that we gave them to do, and leaving directors and other people to have control of things that the general manager is supposed to have control over. Directors are not allowed to do things in banking. So I would tell Steve that what the board needs to do, the board needs to make minutes on the fact that board members only sign checks. They don't move money or do any banking. That's how you get that taken care of at the bank. And here, where I'm a general manager here, I don't sign any checks, but I have full control of money market money, moving money and everything only after I go to the board of directors for an okay to do that. The board of directors do not have any direct influence over any movement or anything of the bank without a vote of all the directors and a unanimous vote. So we have, you know, as the things that are mentioned here, as Steve doing this wrong and that wrong, I'm really surprised he's still here. And I think it's our fault that we're in that situation. Steve did 100% good job during this budget program. I had to change everybody's thinking and minds and did it a whole different way. And I know everybody didn't agree on it, but everybody came around, everybody worked together, everybody had a say in what we did. And I can tell you, anybody that was on this committee is part of that budget. There's nobody that sat back and did nothing, or there's not one person that did it all. So I think that Steve, once we give him the tools, we give him the charge to do his job, which is the secretary to the board, and he is in control of everything to do with the board. The board only votes on items that need to be done in the district. They don't move money. They don't play with money. They decide where the money is being spent, and that's what they vote on. And I think that we've lost that idea in our directors because we've been so messed up using directors to run that office for so long that now when it gets back to running the way it's supposed to, everybody was being resistant to that. And I think Steve's biggest problem was the resistance from Michael Sant to get all of the tools he needed to do his job. So that's how I feel about this. I feel that it was rough for us. I feel it was rougher for Steve, and I think he held on through it. And I think from here on out, it's going to be smoother, but we do need to get out of anything to do with banking. Signing checks is our job, and deciding where the money goes. The rest of it's Steve's to run, and we need to empower him to do his job. That's all I have.
Thank you, Director Earsley. Okay, so like I stated, I'll explain why I called this. The first item being that he removed Director Sent. To my knowledge, we, as a board, voted that all directors would be signers. In order to change that, I believe we do have to bring it up before the board in order to remove someone. Mr. Nelson did not do that. When I signed all of the forms to add everyone on at this new bank and get Mr. Nelson as the administrator to these accounts, I signed first. I looked at where I signed. Nobody else's signatures were on there. I asked him if he was going to call all the rest of the directors in to continue signing. At that time, he stated he would. He did not say he would be excluding Mr. Sint. I then left the office. As for me putting on the item that a member of the budget committee was not being added to emails and was not being scheduled, being told about meetings that were scheduled, that did occur after we spoke about it last meeting. To my knowledge, as of yesterday, it was fixed and alleviated, so that issue is now done with. But after the meeting that we had, the last closed session that we had, or open session, discussing this topic, to my knowledge, it still occurred. So that's why that was on there. And as far as the last comment, I do understand that Mr. Nelson could be extremely frustrated with directors and with members of the public. I'm sure we all get frustrated with each other, but while he is acting as general manager and is in that position and working, I do believe that he should not be addressing people with the tones that he was using by yelling, no matter how upset he may be. I think he should have to be put to, I guess, the same standards as we expect all the other directors to, and as anyone else who addresses the board. If you get upset, you control your emotions. You choose which words to speak wisely. And that is why I called this closed session. As for Director Shields' comments on why we didn't call closed sessions when we didn't have a general manager, closed sessions, to my knowledge, can only be called for employees of the district. And since we didn't have a general manager at that time, none were called. And that is all I have on this subject.
May I respond, please?
Yes, Mr. Nelson, feel free to.
Thank you. I will just I want to thank everybody for their comments. It has been frustrating. I have not been given the tools. And to give you an idea, as we sit here today, almost 4 months in, I do have control of the banking. But one of the problems I have with the accounting and the QuickBooks is I'm not the administrator there still. Michael Sint is. A week ago, we got bills from Fuel Man. And all of you questioned, why are we using Fuel Man? Who's Fuel Man? Who's getting gas there? I don't know. Those bills came to me by email from Director Sint. We called Fuel Man, Nate did, and said, we want to close the account. We've sent the checks. We paid the bills. We're not doing business there anymore. We don't know who's getting gas. We're done. And the guy said, you're not on the account as the administrator. You can't close it. Who's on the account? We can't tell you. So now we've told Fuel Man, and in fact, it just happened again today. They called us. We said, we paid the bill. We will not be paying any more bills. We're done. Contact whoever your administrator is and tell them to cancel the account. So we don't even know where that stands right now. These are the things I've encountered week after week after week. I still don't have control over our emails. So God knows who's monitoring our emails. In fact, 3 of you don't even use company emails. I don't have control over the accounting system. I can't trust what I see there. It's been very difficult in this budget committee, and it's been tough to bring up numbers because they're hard to find and they move because I don't have control. It's not locked in and solid. I have community members that have access to our QuickBooks. Now, we are a government agency. We're open to the public. And yet the public has access to our QuickBooks, our accounting, our billing. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, I'm new to this kind of thing. I'm a businessman. I'm not a politician. But that doesn't make sense to me. That someone in the general public can access our accounting information and produce reports equal to the ones we can. And I find that troubling. I will do my best to do my best. But all I ask is give me the tools and let me go. Let me run my office, let me do my thing, and let's get this baby running. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson, you stated that a member of the public has access to our QuickBooks, you were saying?
I believe so, yes.
I don't want to go into too much detail about that now, but when did you find that about this?
Found out for sure about 2 months ago.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else that you would like to address? Any of the other comments that were made?
No, the only other thing I will say is regarding the emails. All the emails are embedded in the system, and I'll give you 2 examples. Deborah Shields has a Gmail account, but there's 2 Deborah Shields in there. If you click on one of them, she won't get the email. If you click on the other one, she will. Same thing for Chief Yearsley. If you click on one, he doesn't get the email. It's an AOL account. And if you click on another one, he does get it. And sometimes when you're clicking, you think you got the right one. Like today, this morning, I sent out the budget, the final budget to everybody. Now, Gary says he didn't get it. I might have clicked the wrong Gary Yearsley. There's so many emails in this system with the same people. You got to really hunt and peck to find the right one to send. And I'm about 50-50 with Gary Yearsley. I've got Deborah Shields figured out, so she gets them every time. I'm 50-50 with Gary. So the system is not user-friendly in that sense. And nobody's using the same email. So now when I send an email to Clarissa, do I use the email for the Yermo CSD to Clarissa, or do I use her private email for Clarissa? And I've sent them to both. I don't know. And then when Nate sends out things, he knows in his head who he sends to. I don't know what's in his head. So if I'm going to send out a thing, I'm sending it out to the directors. I don't know who's on the original list of community members that are supposed to be given stuff. Nate does. He's been here long enough. So while my secretary is here, boom, he can knock out everything and send it to everybody that needs it. I'm a little sketchy. I'm only 3.5 months in, and I'll get better as I understand how things are set up and who gets what. But that's where we're at with the emails right now. And it's just sometimes somebody gets something. I think everybody gets it. And I find out later somebody didn't, and it's an oops, and it's not malice, and it's not done in any bad way. It's just an oops.
Okay, I could completely understand that. after this well, not after this meeting, but when you get back into the office on Monday, maybe you or Nate could send out an email to all the directors and just have them update their contact information. Maybe Nate could do that as well for the people on our regular contact list for the agenda items. That may alleviate some of this confusion.
Larissa?
Can I speak, Janika?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't on your page. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. So I have to agree with Gary that we're not giving Steve all the tools that he needs. If he had access and administrative rights to the emails, he would be able to go in and delete all of those unnecessary contacts and just have the ones that are necessary so that he knows which ones to be sending to. But with him not having access or administrative rights to the emails, he does not have any way to do that.
Sorry,
We
go
have
ahead.
told, we have told Director Sent to give over those rights to him for the email, for QuickBooks, all of that. My suggestion is for him to put down a list of everything that he needs access to that he doesn't have access to. We get a hold of Director Sent and have Director Sent go in and make sure that all of that is switched over to him. I know we've told him before and it hasn't gotten done, so I don't know any way that we can make sure, make him do it besides going and pulling him in there. I don't know, but we need to get that done so that he has access to all of that. It isn't fair for us to expect him to do something when he doesn't have all the tools. However, we need to figure out what we're going to do about signers on the account. Are we going to have all directors or are we not? We're going to need to put that on the agenda so that we can figure out how we're going to do that, because we've already voted that they were all going to be on there and we can't go against that by taking them off without board approval, from what I understand. So we need to get that stuff taken care of. I say we give a deadline no later than possibly the middle of next week for all of this stuff to be transferred over to him. And if not, then maybe we need to set up new QuickBooks, new whatever, so that he has access to everything. I don't know any other way to force something to be done, but I know that he has to be able to do this. And like I said, we wouldn't even be having this conversation about the emails if he was able to go in there and take people off and add people on or whatever the case may be, so he knows in his own little list who he needs to email. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Director Lohr. I believe Director Yearsley has a comment he would like to make.
Yeah. Well, Steve had answered one of the questions that I had about him having the authority or the administrator rights over all of this stuff. There's not a director that needs to be the administrator over anything. That is solely the job of the general manager. We have talked to Mr. Sent in meetings that it needs to be given across. It's not been done. He misses all these meetings where this is coming up. And Janika, I'm sorry to say, but we as the board and you as the president of the board need to send him a letter and give him a time to do it, because it's 3 months is more than enough for him to hand over every single thing. He does not need to be an administrator over anything. He elected not to have any jobs anymore. He elected to get out of the Parks Rec, all of that. He needs to immediately, and I don't mean in a month, I mean in a week, hand over all of the administrator rights. And if they don't do that, then I would suggest we get a hold of our attorney and we write him a letter and we pursue legal matters against him. This is ridiculous that Steve does not have every administrator right over everything. He cannot do his job without him, and Michael Sent knows that. We've got to get those done now. Now, maybe he doesn't want to give them to Steve, so maybe Janika, you need to have them sent to you, and then you give them over to Steve. That way you'll know when they come, because Michael has said before he had already given them to Steve. So maybe you getting them will show that we've got them now and then give them to Steve. But we got to, this game's been going on for almost 4 months about Steve not being able to do his job, but yet he's getting in, you know, trying to get all this done. We've got budgets to do. We've got bank accounts to set up. 3 months to clean everything up and get it changed over is ridiculous. So I would say at this point, if you have to write a letter to Mr. Cent and put him in one of the meetings, you're right, they can't be in a closed session, but he needs to,
He's the administrator.
he needs to be in here to talk to these, I don't know, these problems. We all know that he was the administrator. We all know he was in charge of the bank accounts, but he's never around when these things come up to talk about. So the letter needs to be written, and we need to give him a time frame, and then we need to hire an attorney to finalize it if Michael can't get involved, get a hold of us or get us the administrator account. And that's all I have. We just got to get on top of this. Nothing can be done until we get this going.
Okay, thank you, Director Yearsley. I will have that letter ready and drafted on Monday. I'm not sure the exact wording I should use, if it has to be something specific, aside from addressing Director Cent and asking him to hand over the administrator passwords and sign-in codes and everything. If Mr. Nelson, if you could send me a list of everything you do not have access to and everything you need to be put on as the administrator of, I would appreciate that, so I could include that in that letter, and then I could send that letter to you, and then we could email it to Director Cent, and we could mail it out as well.
Let's
Do it
make
first thing
sure
Monday.
we also get a return receipt so we know when it's.
Okay. So when
Yeah.
it gets mailed, Mr. Nelson, can you make sure that happens?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Thank you. Do we have anything else from any of the directors? Any more comments?
I'd just like to say
Yes.
something.
Yes.
I just want Mr. Nelson to know that we do appreciate everything he's doing. We do understand that, well, at least I understand, I'm sure everybody else is in agreement, that it's frustrating. And I just hope that you do stick it out and understand that we're trying to get you what you need. It's just a complicated situation, but we do appreciate what you're doing and how hard everything has been on you since you've come. And we just, I just like to say I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I know sometimes we all have difference of opinions, but we all need to work together, and I just appreciate that you're willing to do that.
Steve, I would like to say one more thing. I think you're doing a very good job, and I do think you're under some pressure, but as being in a public servant position, I know that sometimes you get a little bit upset and you get a little bit comeback. I want to tell you that you've changed about 100% since the first couple of times when things didn't go well. You did an awesome job during the committee meeting for the budget. I think everybody did. I think everybody that was on that stepped up and did a good job. But I just kind of want to caution you, don't let people get to you. We'll get this figured out.
Right on.
All right. Thank you, Director Yearsley. If no one else has anything, I just have one more thing sorry, you could hear the baby in the background. I'm sorry.
I would like to say something.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Ms. Director Shields.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to everybody for sticking in there, hanging in there, as you say. Steve, thank you so kindly for doing what you're doing. I appreciate it greatly because there was a time I was very concerned that we were not going to have what we have now. And I appreciate it. I know it's difficult. I apologize for you having to come into such a hectic situation. And I wish it was not that way for you. And I do hope you will stick with us. I appreciate all you do. And thank you so much.
Well, my plan is to stay put, to be honest with you. I got no plans to go elsewhere. Let's just make this thing work as smooth as we can.
All right, so the last thing I have, Mr. Nelson, is I do appreciate the work that you've done for the district. I have heard that you have been working well with the budget committee. I would like to state, though, that if I do come into the office and we do happen to not agree on something for whatever reason, if you raise your voice and speak to me in a tone that you did on Monday, even though Nate's message or Nate's statement says that you didn't, I will leave the office immediately. It's happened, that was the second time that it's happened in the office, and people have seen it in meetings, but I'm just going to state that right now. I do appreciate the work that you've done, but when you have comments or things that you would like to talk to me about, please refrain from doing so with a raised voice. I think that is it. Do we, as directors, do we want to speak on if we will be giving any written written warnings or notes to Mr. Nelson's file?
On that, I don't believe that this constitutes any write-up. I can see that we do a verbal talk with him, what we did today, but I don't think it warrants anything past that personally. I don't know anybody else, but to me, I think that the frustration of trying to run something that we're not giving him power to do has caused what has happened. He has changed a lot in the last little while, and I think that's due to things getting better.
Okay.
Written. Jesus, Jim.
And I'd like to say I'm in agreement with Gary. I do not feel we need to do any written documentation on whatever this is. I think we've talked with him. This is where it should end. And I think we need to start anew and stop what's going on now.
Thank you, Director Yearsley and Director Shields. Director Lohr, do you want to make any comments?
No, I'm good. I agree that, we've talked to him, given the tools that he needs to get the job done, and then we go from there.
I personally am not in agreement with this. Maybe it's because when I was in the office the last time he spoke to me.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I got cut off. I'm not in agreement with this. I believe we should make a write-up to his file. I do just want that to be notated. I was spoken to too many times disrespectfully after we discussed him talking to everyone in that tone in the last employee review. I just want to make that notated. If he has changed and he will not do this in the future, I am very happy to work with him. I did not feel comfortable going into that office when he was speaking to me that way. So, and since
So,
all other
with all due
directors are on
respect-
the same page on not giving him a write-up, then we will not do that. But I just wanted to make my position clear.
I have a question.
Yes, Director Lahr?
Do we have employee files on them so that we can make notations that it was a verbal warning this time, so on and et cetera? This time it was a good review, that sort of thing. So we have something to look back on. Because I find it that we're going over all these closed sessions when we have employee reviews or whatever. But I don't know if there's actually some type of file. I know I never saw one as president to where we can keep these notations so we know what's going on and we can have a record of everything.
Yes, all of our employees have to have files because when they come on, they have to fill out applications and everything, and we have to have all their stuff on file. And then there is write-up forms that we can put in their verbal communications with.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I've never done one or wasn't aware of them.
I do believe there are files. They are located in the office. I have seen one, not recently since Mr. Nelson's been hired, but before. We did add something to someone's file.
Okay.
If that is all from all of the directors, let me scroll through and make sure no one's raising their hand. Okay. If that is all from all the directors, I believe this review is over.
Ridiculous.
Can I make a motion to adjourn? Are we at that part yet?
I think she had a baby emergency.
Uh-oh. Okay, let me pull up my agenda again. I'm sorry, I just closed it. I'll go ahead and if she's got a baby emergency, we'll finish up.
Then I'm going to second your motion.
Okay, does somebody have their agenda up?
Hello?
Is that where we're at now?
There you go, Janika,
Hi.
you're back.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I believe we are at that place. Sorry, my baby took over my phone for a second.
Totally understandable. And I had just closed out my agenda, so I wasn't sure where we were.
Oh yeah, of course it would happen at that time. Okay, where did my agenda go? I don't even know. I believe we are at the point where we can make a motion. My agenda is not.
Okay,
Oh, there we go. Yay. Okay, so yes, we are there. Director Laura, you may make your motion, ma'am.
And I already
I'll make a
seconded.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, Director Yearsley seconded. I heard that. Director Shields, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Yearsley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Laura, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Sint is absent. And I will vote aye to adjourn September 10th meeting at 9:41 p.m. Thank you all for sitting through this. And we will see you again at the next probably special meeting. Hopefully this budget will be good to go.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good evening. Good night.
Be
Good
safe.
night. Good night.
Firefighters, busy time.
Bye.
Night.